and she's also a certified train the trainer. So handing it over to Princy now to get started. Let's go, Princy.
Thank you so much, Ipshita and the Hyderabad team for this warm welcome and the introduction. And also, thank you all, the participants, for taking out time during your Saturday, registering and coming here and seeing to it that you are there present. And one thing is, it motivates all of us. Second, it motivates me personally, because when I'm here to give something, I always expect that we have an audience who are really interactive and enthusiastic enough to learn something new. So having said that, I just want to know from the audience, how many of you all are working for technical writing or, instructional designing, or if there is any other field that you're working on, if you can just type your roles in the chat, it would be really helpful for me to, just organize my thoughts and structure the content. I'm, I'm not sure if I can see the chat. Um, awesome. Awesome. Keep coming in. Great. So I see a lot of technical writers being part of this webinar, and it's wonderful because we all fall into the same clan. And nothing like it. We shoulder each other and we think of various different aspects to grow our different types of skills, and what we can learn more, so that we can prosper in our careers and have a growth mindset. So with this, let me share my screen and I can start my presentation. I hope you all can see my screen, and here we go. Sorry. Okay, so before we get started, this is a webinar on instructional designing. What is instructional designing and why should I even care? I already have a day job to do, and then I am already into something, but then what happens when I want to upskill myself into instructional design? And that's the reason I thought, I would come up with this webinar to help you all understand what instructional design means to you, what it meant to me. Okay. So before we get started, a quick note on who I am. Apart from what Ipshita told, that was my professional part of it. Yes, as Ipshita told, my name is Princy Helmina Melchius. I'm a budding entrepreneur and a very curious person. I don't count my years. Years with experiences and numbers. I always count them in terms of learning and experiences. So you can consider me really, really old person. Like a granny, because every day I learn, and if that counts, then I should be some close to 200 plus years right now. Okay, jokes apart, a few fun facts about myself. I think and script a lot. That's the reason maybe I was motivated to join this instructional designing kind of a stream. What I mean to think and script a lot is that, when there is a conversation happening, I just put myself in that shoes and I'll see, okay, how well can this conversation go? If it were to be a nasty conversation, I'll script. If it were to be a good conversation, I will script there too. So if you see me quiet in a group conversation, think that something is cooking in my brain. I laugh a lot and I crack unimaginably bad jokes. It'll be just me laughing. And I've conducted many successful training sessions for kids, professionals, even senior citizens for that matter. And I love conducting my trainings. However, there are times that I failed to, especially to train my pet 3-year-old four-legged person. His name is Bigel. He continuously misbehaves and I'm unable to train him still. He keeps peeing in my washroom, and I've been training him for the past 3 years, totally unsuccessful. Now, I enjoy watching K dramas. I'm sure many of you all would do. So expect a little te or kamsamita coming in during this session, but I try to not do that too. Jokes apart, now let me tell you all, how did I enter into this creative world of instructional designing? So when I started off in my previous organization, my manager asked me to write a note about myself. So I was just looking into the previous notes, like as we all do. I was just taking a look at it, and everybody was sharing their experiences, where do they come from, and how good they are in terms of their working style and all of that. They would share their pictures, they would share their pictures of their pets, family, and all of that. And that's how a regular, normal introduction would seem like, like that's how we would always do. So I was thinking, how can I make my introduction impactful? Which means when somebody looks at my instruction, they should remember me. And I wanted to create that first impression and that a lasting impression too. So this was something that I created. So I'm a big fan of Dennis Christo's characters, cartoon characters, and this was one of the cartoon character. Back then, I was a little leaner and all of that. Now that my lean mass is, kind of encapsulated with all fat, but yeah. So this kind of represented me back then, and then this is how I created my intro at that company. And trust me, it was impactful. It was because of the visuals, the colors that I used, the wordings, the content that I came up with. So this was a lasting impression, but I was successful, I would say, because after 8 months when I visited San Diego for a retro, most of them, including the developers and the other sector people, the other department people, would come and say, "Hey, Princey, I remember you. You were the one who used the Dennis Christo's character, right, to introduce yourself. We remember that was an excellent introduction. We remember you." So then that is the phase that I kind of understood I did have a little creativity. So then I was thinking, I've been a technical writer for a very long time, but at the same time, I was looking out for an opportunity to move my skill into becoming something more relevant that I really love to connect to. And nothing more than training, because I've continuously trained from a very young age, trained people from a very young age. So I really like to be in that role. So I was looking out for an opportunity. Then I stumbled upon this role as a training lead in this company. And it wasn't easy. It was difficult because I had to unlearn a lot of technical writing concepts and technical writing experiences that I had, and then put myself in an instructional designer's shoes, and then I had to create a lot of stuff. So this is my journey. This is how I understood the calling of becoming a technical writer and a trainer. And from then on, there was no turning back. And for the past 1.5 to 3 years, 4 years plus, I've been training people consistently, training new hires on the skills, on their progresses, and I'm sorry, processes and everything. And I've also been training people outside of the organization, like a charity, on various different soft skills like effective communication, interpersonal skills, transaction analysis, and so on and so forth. For everything, I would say knowing instructional designing and understanding how the instructional designing world works helped me a lot. Now, enough of all of my stories. Now, let's understand what instructional design is. This term came into existence very recently, as instructional design, but this is not new. Sending instructions or giving instructions to help a person learn something starts from the existence of mankind. Don't you think that in our Stone Age period, we would see the cave carvings and cave art and all of that, which would send instruction as to how to hunt, which would tell instruction as to how to save yourself, which would tell instructions as to how do we want to do certain things. For example, making fire. How did we come to know that? How did they start it off, right? It was only through the instructions that they conveyed in their little limited area, in their little limited ecosystem. But as and when it progressed from the Stone Age to, maybe call it as a biblical era, I would say we still consider to have instructions sent across in terms of spirituality, in terms of religion, in terms of how you have to be, like if you see Rig Veda, if you see other, epic and all of that, they are all in forms of instruction, how you can become a better human. And then the latest, the ways that we have been instructed changed, but instructions remain the same from childhood. from childhood, we kind of listen or learn to accept instructions, right, and follow them. And at the same time, we also have the ability to give instructions to our kids, to our pets, to our husbands, to our wives, and everybody that we know around. Like even if you are in the corporate world, you start giving instructions. So this is something that is and was prevailing and will prevail to the end of the earth, to the end of the world, I would say. But then now we have now a process to understand how we want to use it. We now have a process as to understand how we can deliver it efficiently. Okay, so that is what instructional design is. Now, coming to the actual definition, it would be the process of designing and developing learning experiences and resources. Now, move away from just giving instructions and making them do. Let's think about the learner as a human, definitely the learner is a human. But then if you want to talk to a human, let us be more humane, and we have to develop the learning, giving them a great learning experience, right? When you give them a great learning experience, the retention will be more. They retain the content that they learn, right? So that is what is instructional design. And yes, the resources that instructional designers create is also part of it. Now, that's about the definition of what instructional design is. Now, the next thing that I want you all to understand is like, okay, Princy, we've heard enough about what instructional design is. Now, tell us exactly what instructional designers do. Now, I just want you all to take a little moment to understand what, as technical writers, you do in your organization. If you can write it in the chat, maybe I might, or you might not be able to see that. I might not be able to see that, but our team would help me read out what are the things that you had written. But just let me know, what is it that as writers you do? I'm just not talking about technical writers. You could be a content writer, you could be a curriculum developer, whoever it is. Just tell me what you do in the chat. And if you could help me read it out, that would be great.
Sure. So Kunal says he prepares OM, IM, service infos, marketing brochure.
Wow.
Dipti writes instructions, procedures,
Mm-hmm.
and Harish creates learning videos
Wow. Mm.
and help develop the content, understand the features, and pass on the learning to the customer in various formats. Darshana writes user manuals.
Wow.
Karna writes we would standardize the documents. Akash says write to help customers achieve their day-to-day tasks. Job aids, SOP, ILTs, WBTs. Wow.
Man, you people are doing way more than what I expected you all to do, or way more than what I would do. That's great. Definitely. And I'm grateful that you guys are here in this webinar to listen to me. Wow. Okay. So now to understand what instructional designers do exactly. Here, they create the learning experiences and resources. Now, after reading what all you do, this should not be new, because now you've already started thinking in that direction. You already start, how can I help my customer? How can I help my child? How can I help um, my manager to know, the other managers to know, what am I supposed to do, like what are the new processes that I came across, or like I developed, and whatever it is. And these are the things that as IDs do too. Like they create learning experiences and resources. As I told you, experiences is something intangible, but the resources are like more, it is available for you. So this is something that they would take away in terms of hard copy or soft copy, but experiences remains. Okay, so instructional designers play a major role in creating those experiences. Now, the next thing is, it's like kind of an analysis, like how most of us in our previous career, like writing, or anything for that matter, being a project manager, analyst, or whatever it is, we would do some kind of an analysis. The analysis would be to understand what is it uh, that is required extra for us to provide them. Okay, so here for the instructional designers, we bridge the learning gaps. Okay, we first analyze What is the learning gap? We first give them a pre-assessment, maybe a survey, maybe something that's more relevant for them, for us to deduct what is it that they require from us for this topic, for this process, for this skill. Okay, so that is what instructional designers do. Bridge the learning gaps in terms of knowledge or in terms of skills. The next thing is evaluation. In writing, mostly the evaluation part would be like getting a feedback from the customers on the documentation that you have written. But in terms of instructional design, evaluation plays a major role because we would then be able to assess the learner's um, retained capacity, like how much the learner understood that we need to either modify the course, or we need to keep it like that, or we need to maybe reduce the amount that we have already shared, the amount of information that we have already shared. So that kind of evaluation for the learning effectiveness is very, very critical in an ID role. Okay, so evaluation takes a different level altogether. You can come up with various different forms of evaluation, maybe a practical session, maybe giving them assignments, maybe giving them just a questionnaire or anything that comes to your mind. But then evaluation should be effective. It cannot go like, okay, I'm just giving this evaluation just for the sake of it. So it should be helping the learners understand like a reality check, and helping you as an instructional designer understand where exactly you can update your course materials, how well you can improve on the learning experiences. So this is what IDs generally do. Now, roles of IDs. So now that we all know, as any job role that we take up, we perform certain roles, right? In case if you are a technical writer, or if you are a UI UX writer, you perform certain roles. For example, you create content, you do an analysis like a business analyst, you do a test on the product like a test engineer, you do the if you're a manager for a technical writing team, you do the management of it, like project management, deciding about the resources, the timelines, and all of that, right? So here, similarly, I came up with these roles. I'm not sure whether these roles are even valuable, I mean, like authentic or not, but then these roles are something that I deducted working in as an instructional designer. So when I say that, I came up with the names. Okay, definitely these are the things that we do, but what is it is something that we need to understand. The first thing, in no particular order, you can be this and this. One person can take up many roles, but based on the role, the responsibilities, I just gave the name. Okay. So the first one is a creator. Who is a creator? The creator is somebody who creates the learning materials, or who creates the products, such as online courses, tutorials. They come up with an assessment, they come up with video tutorials, whatnot. Okay, so they are the people who actually build the content. Now, to build the content, you need to first identify what are the gaps, what is the actual need of the audience, what do the learner need exactly for this particular skill or a topic. So that analysis is done by an analyst. It's just a term. You can just understand that we can work in all of these roles. Okay. So as an analyst, for instructional design, we analyze, we identify the gaps, we curate the learning content, and provide all of the required research details to the creator for him or her to create the content. Now comes the architect. Now, who's the architect? He's the person, or she's the person who builds the complete structuring, right? In terms of learning experiences, I would say they are the ones who come up with how micro learning sessions, how many micro learning sessions we can create, how many modules that we can come up with for this topic, and how many skill level topics that we can bring up. So all of this is something like an architect's role. Okay, they would kind of create the storyboard, create the scripting, come up with mock-ups, do the structuring and arranging of all the topics. So this is a very important role because they are the ones who are going to give the final experience to the learners. Okay, then comes the project manager. Nothing, no different from any other project manager. They are the ones, the instructional designing project manager is the one who plans and manages the schedule of the projects. Now we have an evaluator. So this role can be played by both the creator or and the analyst. Okay, so when I say an evaluator, they come up with assessments for evaluating. Okay, pre-assessments, post-assessments, and assessments after every modules, and then trying to understand the learning gaps by giving them surveys, by sending out surveys, and after that receiving the feedback, asking them how was their experience. So these this role, a person performing, an instructional designer performing this role would be termed as an evaluator, in my opinion. Okay, and then comes the marketer. What can we do if we do not market our learning? Okay, if it is if you are inside of an organization, if you're working for an organization in a learning and development team, marketing may not be that critical. Okay, however, if you're a freelancer, if you're a freelance technical writer, or if I'm sorry, instructional designer, or a freelance curriculum developer, then definitely you have to market your courses. For example, I'm a life coach and I'm going to create a content on life coaching skills. Now, this particular course must be made aware to the general public because this is not for a specific audience. This is for a wide range of audience. And without marketing, you cannot sell the course. Okay, so that marketing the learning product internally and externally is critical. Now, when I say internally, you might wonder why, Princy, why internally? We anyways would know. No, haven't you seen that whenever you join HR may email stating that, hey, you know what, you need to take up this mandatory course on ethical hacking. You need to take up this mandatory course on some blah topic, like for example, interviewing skills or presentation skills. So what do you call it as? It's nothing but marketing and indirect marketing, which is not even persuading. It's instructing marketing. Okay, you are asked to do certain things, but certain times your manager would come and tell you, please take up this training. It is going to affect your performance. It's like kind of a persuasive marketing, which kind of has some inner benefits for you. Okay, so marketing plays a major role here, both internally and externally. Hope you understand that. And then the administrator of the instructional designing course, which instructional designing program, which would be the person who will manage the LMS. So we can create content using various different tools, but we need to have an LMS, like how we have a content management system for technical writers. We need to have an LMS for instructional designing. So a person who would manage the LMS would be called the administrators, and they also administer the learners. Now you might ask me, what does it mean by administrating the learners? Which means how many learners have taken up that course? What is the report? They come up with creating the reports, and what are the things that they have learned? How many of them has complete, and how many of them are still in progress? All of this administrative job is done by this administrator. And a consultant. The consultant plays in a, he's at the top, or she is at the top of the pyramid, which means they are the ones who advise, who perform the needs analysis and say, hey, you know what, in our organization, I think we need a training for the managers on how to effectively manage their team, a training for team building, and or a training for speaking up in the meetings. So a consultant is the person who does that. It could be your manager, it could be your director, it could be anybody, but they are the ones who would tell us, okay, this is what my team is struggling. Okay, so I need this learning product and I want it to be done. So they reach out to the training team or to the instructional designing team who would be developing the training or the course materials for them. Hope I made it clear. Now, we have various different deliverables for any content that we create. For instructional design, what are the deliverables? What could be the deliverables? If you can just let me know in the chat, if you can just type what could be the deliverables, it would be great. And Ipshita, again, I need your help.
Sure. Let's see. Process documents,
Mm-hmm.
training videos, Dipti says, release
Okay.
notes, Swarnalata,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and presentations and videos, learning courses, e-learning courses, training
Wow.
modules,
Mm-hmm.
interactive videos.
Wow. Excellent. I think you don't need to be there in part of this webinar because you already know everything. But yes, it's my job to tell you all what are the various different in ID deliverables are. The first is the full online course. So you must have taken up online courses, right? For example, if you want to take up a career counseling program, you would have an online course, a complete online package, which starts off with who the counselors are and how do they guide the students and various different aspects of it. So it's a complete package. So ID deliverables would be one, a full online course, two, a lesson plan with assessment. So it could be a micro topic, like for example, if you're within an organization, it could be something as, etiquettes, office etiquettes. It could be something as email writing. It is like a part of a bigger topic subject. So this is also one of the deliverables of an instructional design. Then we have videos with or without voiceovers, videos with just, prompts coming in and out, and videos with voiceover, wherein we can use AI voiceover if you wanted to sound more professional, or you can use your own voice if you really have that traction. Now, the next thing, yes, somebody said about presentations. We create, one of the ID deliverables is a PowerPoint presentation, and like something like this. The next thing is a structured PDF document would also be considered as an ID deliverable, where you might see a book, a course book, right, with all of those indexes, syllabus, and the content. So all of it fall under instructional design deliverables. Now, this is not something new to you, but yes, now you understand that this is also a part of the instructional design field. Now let's dive into the process models of instructional design. Like how we have a documentation development life cycle for technical writing, we do follow certain processes as instructional designers. The first process is the analyze, design, develop, implement, and evaluation model, which we call it as AD model. Which is the very commonly used model because it's a linear pattern. We start off with analysis and we end with implementation and evaluation. It's a very simple, straightforward, linear model. Now, the next model is action mapping. So it is a very quick and effective model which not many companies use, but this model is kind of picking up steam. When I say when we are doing e-learning programs, or courses, or if we are coming up with simulative courses or personal training events like in-person training events, then we come up with action mapping. We give an action-oriented training program. Let us call it as a workshop. Okay, it's not like we are just going to give only a presentation, but we also expect some action oriented activity happening in that event. So the learning becomes more practical. So if you have an hands-on, it's so considered that in this action mapping model, it is more retainable. Okay. The next model that we can talk about is the learning circle framework. Now, this is it's not very what do you call commonly used framework. This is a framework that I got to know from one of the institutes that I took up the instructional design course. I took up the instructional design and course in two different institutes, one from Symbiosis, to another from the Instructional Design Central. So in the Instructional Design Central course is where I came to know about this very effective learning circle framework, which I'll be just explaining it in a second with the diagrams. Now, the next course is the SAM model. Now, the process model is a SAM model, which is successive approach model. It is something very similar to your agile. Okay, we just use a successive iterative model. Now, let me show you the pictures of each model. The first model is the AD model, where everything is circular. You know, I told you it's like it starts from analysis, design, development, implementation, completes evaluation. Now we start off with the next course of analysis, design, implementation, development, and all of that. Now that is very simple to understand. But when we go to an action mapping, I couldn't come up with a picture for action mapping because it is like very much action oriented and there was no flow chart or a workflow that I could deduct from it. So that's the reason I couldn't pick up a picture from for that. Now let us move forward with learning circle framework. So this framework, if you can see my mouse pointer, is called the learning circle framework, where we have checklist for each items. Okay, if we call it as a target, I would call them as an audience. Okay, if we have a target or we know who our audiences or learners are, we have a few checklists. And it was this model really helped me as a instructional designer in my, while I was working as an instructional designer. So which helped me, like I was able to understand or check out all of these pointers, saying interview the learners and stakeholders, checked, and then define the problems. Only if you define your problems, it comes into the research part of it, you will know what kind of materials, learning materials you want to keep and create. And then you also try to understand what are the different types of learning personas. But when I say learning personas, I would call my learners level, if they are very basic, if they are intermediate, or they are advanced learners. And then we have to also define the success criteria for each and every learning module, which is very critical. When I say a success criteria, it could be your objective. So for today's instructional design webinar, the objective is for me to create an understanding about the various different instructional design models, to create an understanding of what instructional design is, to help you all deduct how to understand the learning gaps or how to analyze the learning gaps. So these would be my objectives for this webinar. Similarly, for every course materials that you create, you should have a success criteria, or I could call it as an objective, okay, or the outcome of it. Now, when I say an outcome, you know what would be the final end result. The learner will be, say, for example, if it is effective communication course, what would be my outcome? The learner would be able to effectively communicate to a group of audience or to one person. The learner will understand the various different communication barriers and overcome them. Or the learner would be able to kind of articulate using both verbal and non-verbal elements to communicate better. So this would be my success criteria or the outcome or maybe the objective of my starting of the session. Now, after that, we go to creating, which is no different from the regular creating part, creating the content and then gather the information first and then create the content and then test and build the prototype and then the final course. Now, after that, we go to the launch part. The launch part would be what? It would be creating a roadmap as to after the completion of this course, what next? And then we also have the training delivery channels that we could think of if you want to have it in the form of online or if you wanted to have it offline, if you want to have a printed handout materials, whatever it is, that's what is called the launching activity. And then creating a communication plan, the marketing that I told you, you need to create a communication plan to make aware that this course is available and then deploy the course. Now, this process is iterative. Okay, so when we do this, we test and then we iterate. At every stage, we test and iterate. Okay, so this is the learning circle frame tested by me and approved. So the next model that I'm going to show you is the SAM model, which is like simple, small incremental model, which how agile works. Like, so in this model we have three phases. One, a preparation phase, which is just gathering information and building things up. Like starting it off, the design phase types. Then comes the iterative design phase, which is we design, we prototype, we review, and then go back until it is finalized. So that is the second phase. The third phase is the iterative development phase. So once we finalize the design, we develop it, and then we try to implement it, we test it or evaluate it, and then go back till a final output is ready. Okay, when every stakeholder approves and we are ready to launch or roll it out. Okay, and the rolling out process also forms three different stages. We have an alpha, we'll have a beta, and we'll have the final gold um, release work. Done. Okay, so I hope this process model is made clear, and this would help you all to understand how closely it is related to our writing models, writing processes too. Now, the key attributes of an instructional designer, yes, as I've told you earlier, now that we know the roles, we know the responsibilities, what could be the key skills that an instructional designer can hold? One, the problem solving skills. Learners come with various different problems, and you need to kind of know how can you help them. So it should have that, you should always have that in you. Okay, how can I address this problem? My son does not understand math. How can I make that more interesting? How can I solve this issue in terms of learning? Then curiosity, finding various different ways of implementing the same concepts. Okay, so the curiosity is something that every instructional designer should have. Like I gave my own real time example. Like I was being curious to know how can I impact my introduction to a wider audience. And then we came up with the various different strategies, and then I built that about beat thing. And you have to be an enthusiastic learner too. What if you get a topic that you really do not know? And then you need to be that learner to learn about that topic in and out to teach others. Okay, Stanford University says that learners who learn in solitude learn only 50% of the content, but learners who learn and teach or train or develop content are the ones who completely retain the topics understanding. So that is a proven research that is already there. So being an enthusiastic learner and giving it out or sharing the information makes you a complete learner. Now you should be a technology buff because we have latest AI, ML, and latest different tools to use for creating instructional design deliverables. Then yes, an organized thinker. Hey, I'm not talking about being an OCD organized person. I'm talking about an organized thinker who can think clearly, who knows, okay, I know this is a problem, but I do not want to bring in too many things to be delivered to this learner. Let me organize it in stage wise. Let me say for basic, I will cover these topics. For this, I would cover these topics and then slowly progress them. So we can either do it as a cyclical learning experience or a progressive learning experience. So for all of these, as an instructional designer, you need to know a little bit of psychology, a little bit of trying to understand the learning theories. Okay, so that is what are the attributes of an instructional designer. Um, so with this, can we have a poll, Ipshita?
Sure, we have posted it.
Okay. So this is just a quick check on what did you understand here. And once we know the results, I would know like how effective my training was. This is a way of evaluating this webinar's delivery. Okay, do we have all the results, Ipshita?
People are still putting in their votes. Let's give little more time.
Okay.
So far, we have maximum votes going for create. Okay, we have the result. Just a minute. Um, yeah, maximum votes going for create learning experiences,
Very
and
good.
some people are saying it's for create learning modules.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And thank you so much, everybody, for being an active participant. Uh, Now we'll, yes, an excellent communicator is also another key attribute, which I forgot to tell you all. Okay, now moving on to the next steps. What can we do to become an instructional designer? Well, I can tell you it's a learning experience every day. I do not consider myself there yet. I'm still a budding instructional designer, and I have a long way to go in terms of creating content, in terms of becoming curious, in terms of becoming creative, and all of that. So let's learn together. The next steps would be trying to acquire the maximum ideas around what instructional design is and trying to understand how well you can, in your current role, in a little way, implement the instructional design concepts. Okay. And then from there, we can build up becoming an instructional designer. So, for example, if you are a technical writer, you can use the instructional designing concepts to create infographics, to create short, quick videos on certain how-to things. Maybe you can also try to use release notes videos for example, which would be like, okay, when a customer comes in and looks at the release notes and they just want to know what's new. Okay, and then we, instead of them reading the entire content to understand it, you just show them in the application, hey, these are the places that we made the changes, and this is the new in this release. So that would be a quick thing that a customer would retain. They would know, okay, for this release, these are the new offerings that this particular company is giving. Okay, let me go and try that. So this is going to create a more impact. So these are certain things that I'm giving you as ideas, but you can come up with various different ideas for the relevant role that you are in. So instructional design is not constrained to just, creating contents, or it's only for learning and development. It can be applied in various different fields and in various different industries. Okay, for example, education industry, training industry, it could be in the technical writing industry, it could be like a sales industry, a marketing place. Instructional design is just, it prevails everywhere. It's just that we do not realize that it's the role of an instructional designer to create all of that. We just give it away to normal people who just do their job, but not our instructional designers who would be like applying the right methodologies and processes and analysis, putting in thought through it and thought through that and building creative content. Okay, so if you are a person who are into any of these fields, you can also learn or upskill your current knowledge or skill to becoming an instructional designer as well. So the next steps would be, yes, equip yourselves. Come up with small, short things that you can do, in work or outside of work, and try to experiment new things. And that's how we can move forward and become a successful writer or instructional designer. Now, when I say next steps, again, yes, as our team already said, you can join the instructional designing Telegram group. You can chat with me about your career aspirations, or you can just ask me how did I progress and what are the challenges that I faced, and I'd be happy to help you out with. Now, the next stage is a quick demo. Well, this I did it just for you all to, help you understand in a very low level, like how can you build it in no time. So this is not a full blown demo. So if you are an existing or an already instructional designer, you would say, Princy, what is this? This is not even a demo. But then, yes, I just wanted you all to experience it firsthand to see how I kind of think through to build a creative course on something as simple as communication. So just let me just take you through that. So if you see, this is a tool called Rice Articulate 360 that I've used to create curriculum. Like we use this to create online curriculum, which is a blend of textual content and it could be images, it could be activities there, and it could be videos as well. So here we have, this would be kind of structuring part of it, this homepage, where you will have a background information set, then you will go through the basics. You can have additional sections like this, more, and then we can come up with additional resources and conclusion. So in all of this, as an instructional designer, I would always follow a base level of communication pattern, which is the hamburger pattern. I would go with an instruction, I will pick up all the supporting topics or content, and then at the end I come up with the conclusion. And now, if you want me to show you the effective communication that I've created and edited, so this is for an audience who would be a school-going kid or students at the age group of 9 to maybe 12. So for them, the art of speaking right. How do you know how to speak well? So we just talk to them with giving them a background and information about a class setup, and then we tell them what communication is, and then ask them to do a little sorting thing. As a good communicator, what are the things that you can do? They respect different opinions. If they say no, no, that's incorrect, okay, so yes, as a good communicator, we need to respect opinion. They actively listen. No, that's not right. They have to listen. Good communicators must be good listeners. So by doing this activity, they will be able to retain their um, knowledge about this topic. So that is what an instructional designer would do. And this is one simple example that I just thought you would be, interested in to see, firsthand. Like this is how we normally do an instructional designing program. I can do more, but I didn't have much time to focus on coming up with a full-blown demo. But yes, when we find time, I will show you a lot of stuff that I have done so far. So with this, I think I would hand over to the team. And thank you so much for attending.
Uh, Thank you, Princy. That was a great presentation and demo. I myself enjoyed this wonderful instructional design webinar, and I was like engrossed in this webinar, and I liked the quotation instructional design is nothing but creating learning experiences. Yes, we do create learning experiences out of that, and going forward, we all will be creating too many learning experiences out of these. And yes, from instructional design, we from our daily activities like through technical writing, we can create many more designing activities like we can do through release notes, PPT, videos, and many other things. And we can reduce the content through designing. So instructional designing will play a pivotal role in the coming days. So thanks a lot, and I am sure everybody enjoyed this session. So thank you very much.
Okay, if you really like the session, please put a thumbs up so that it gives me some encouragement. Oh, thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much for all your encouragement, team. And it was wonderful talking to you all and sharing my experiences with you. And Preeti, those words were really motivating. And I'm really happy that you were able to connect and, share your experiences after this webinar. I think a few of them have their hands raised. Can we go by order, please?
Yeah, sure.
So,
Uh,
Ravi, you had the questions noted. Can you go ahead and ask questions, please, quickly? We will run short of time otherwise.
Yeah. There was one MN, someone asked, can you give an example for action mapping?
Okay, so for action mapping, I would say if you know what the outcome would is, like instead of giving a regular instructional a regular learning experience, we would try to give as a workshop model, hands-on experience model. We will know what the action that we want to give to the user, and based on that we will develop the content for the outcome. So that would be a kind of an action mapping that we would try to kind of map when we are creating a content. So we know the learner should do this. That would be the action, and based on that action we are planning to build the content. So we are kind of first analyzing what the actions of the users would be or the learners would be. Then we will understand the outcome, and then we will build the content. And for that, multiple actions would be there. It's just not a linear one, or it's just not an iterative one. We will have multiple things coming in, but that would give this action mapping process model will actually help you nail down on what is something that the users have to do in terms of instructing them, and what will be the outcome at the end of it. And at the same time, it will also cut down the corners, saying that, okay, we will not take in more information from the stakeholders. This is all that we have finalized on, and from here we are going to move forward with it. So this is what would be an action process model or action mapping process model.
Okay. The next one is from Sonalata Gopal Swami. That what are the other tools that you use in ID, like Rise 360?
Like Rise 360, there are various other tools also that we use, but I predominantly used Rise. I also have worked with Mindtickle, which was another. It was like kind of a content management system, but it was more of a tool to host the products. Now, apart from that, the basic tools such as Camtasia, you can use Photoshops, you can use PPTs, you can use your AI voiceover well set to use as a tool. So there are multiple different combinations of tools that we use to create a complete package course.
Okay. There's one more by Dasha. That do you happen to know who coined the term ID?
Uh, I'm sorry, no. I wish I had an answer to that. I never thought this coming through.
I think
But
that's
yes,
not a term.
whoever
That's
it
just
is,
a
they deserve a
acronym.
goodie.
Okay. And I think one more. Can you throw some light on the SAM model supported with an example?
That's a great point. A SAM model supporting with an example, I can say the initial phase would be, as I told you, a preparation phase. For example, if you're coming up with a course on, just let me pick up one topic. Say interpersonal skill. Okay, so if you want to pick up a course on interpersonal skill, what could be the preparation phase? The preparation phase would be, who would be my audience, what are the types of topics that I need to create, what are the things that I need to build for this, like the basic structuring part of it, the initial planning phase, who all would take what roles, and how do we going to how what are the kinds of channels that we are going to deliver it through, and all of it. And then we come to the design phase. In the design phase, it's going to be iterative. Okay, it's first we will come up with a prototype, then we will share it with the stakeholders, and then if once it is not approved, if there are any changes, it goes back, and then the design needs to be finalized. So that is an design iterative phase. And then comes the development iterative phase, where we develop, create the prototype. Like first would be the mock-ups, the second would be the prototypes, and the third would be the final launch. Okay, the final launch would be, oh, we are finally done with this development part. We know what it is, and then we are ready for delivery. So, and delivery again will be in phases. Would be first alpha, which will be testing within the small group. Then we will go into beta, which will be for the internal group, and it will be the final launch, which will be for the external audience.
Um, Actually, I think there's one more. Can you suggest any tool for text to speech apart from Amazon Poly for videos?
Text to speech is something that I haven't tried, because for I know that you're talking from the accessibility point of view, but in this instructional design, we normally create our content either with voiceover or without. So that's what I said. I kind of predominantly used Well Said, which was an AI voiceover tool. But we do have a lot of free tools as well, AI tools where we can type the text and it creates into a voice, a digital voice, or it creates into a close to human voice. So these tools that I have, but the Well Said is something that is very easy to use, and it comes with a license cost, but it is something that I have used and I can suggest 100% that it works well.
I think, yeah, I think that's it. Rest of all our career questions that we can have in career discussion. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so for career questions, I think it will be good if people can ask directly. So I think two questions we have directly. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Anirban and is
Yeah,
it
sure.
Khanna?
Hello,
Yeah,
all. Good morning. Am I audible?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Go
Hey,
ahead.
hi, Princy. Yeah. Hi, Princy. Thanks for the session. So I just want to know, about the career growth of ID and the pay scale. Uh, if I compare ID with a technical writer, how it is? If you can give a glance.
So if I can hear you well or clearly, you want to know the career progression of an instructional designer, and what was the second part to it, Anirban?
So the second one is like the pay scale, the technical writer versus ID.
Okay. That's a great point. We cannot disclose the complete pay package because it's like critical to every company and it varies. So I can hands down say that that's something that I do not have too much of insight to. But when I talk about the C-suite um groups of organizations or the top group of organizations where learning and development takes a major role, for example, if it is a product-based company, they would kind of require very much good experienced and creative instructional designers, and they don't bother about paying you well. Okay, so that is something that you can hands down go and try and test being an instructor for the interviews and then bag the job, and there is going to be a real good pay for any instructional designer in a product based organization where training plays a major role of whichever product that they are building. Now when it comes to the transition part of the role, similar to being a technical writer, we have a progressive role map that we see. So we start with an associate, which would be like a basic instructional designer, and then we progress to become a senior principal, staff, or manager. It's just not going to be very different. But as an instructional designing team, I would say it will not be very big. Because the needs that would come in any organization would be a little limited. But if the organization is a big organization, and there are a lot of needs that we have, then the instructor designing team is also very big, and we all fall into the learning and development department. Learning and development department. In the previous organization, my role was a curriculum developer role. So it is like as fruitful as it could be. And apart from that, I would say being a freelance instructional designer also works wonders, because you need not have a constraint of any industry. You can pick up projects for instructional design, like creating a curriculum for a startup, and telling them that, hey, I would create training videos for you, or I would create training opportunities for you for your product. Or if you are going to some psychologist, for example, right now I have a project from one of a doctor who is into who's into like a chiropractitioner, practitioner. So he wants a course to be created for his sector. So there he wanted an video where he would be talking about the various different practices that we need to follow, and the various different difficulties that a patient would have. So these kind of projects also are available as a freelance project. So you can just visit various different websites that offers freelance projects, and you can bag those as well by giving in your prices. So there is no specific thing that I can say that instructional designers should be only part of an organization. as a freelance, like a freelance technical writer, you can also be a freelance instructional designer or a course and curriculum developer if you're equipped, or if you're a master of some field or some subject, you can definitely be one. I hope it answered.
I think pretty detailed answer. Motivating
Yeah,
too.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, thank you.
But Anirban, are you planning to switch? I know Princy has switched from technical writing to ID, and
Yeah,
now here is she.
yeah, yeah. So you are inspiring me, Princy. So I can
Oh,
teach that.
anytime.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Anyone related to career? For other questions related to ID in general, please join the instructional design Telegram group that we have shared. For career related questions, anyone, please go ahead and ask.
Yeah, Puneet, one question. My name is Prasanna Kiran. So currently we see a lot of AI implementation, but how does the career of an ID get impacted due to this technology advancement?
That's a great point, Prasanna. So it is a threat, it seems to be a threat to every field for that matter, with AI and ML coming into picture. Because when I was a technical writer with AI, we felt a threat because they thought technical writers would lose their jobs. And we have ChatGPT coming up, and we have Gemini coming up. So it is the same. I would call it as a myth. We will try to burst it in no time, but then yes, it's still just a myth because we are still trying to explore. And with learning, it requires a human touch. No AI can replace a human giving a learning experience. For example, you are attending this webinar, and I could have been a recorded webinar too, but then a live webinar as such would give you a better experience, would give you a different level of motivation, and give you a definite level of path, a twist taking path, like you decide, make your decisions based on this. So an experience with the human touch is way more valuable when it compares to an AI, and that is like predominantly, I would say, it's just a myth that needs to be bursted, and then that would definitely be there in no time. And we can leverage instructional design, AI in instructional design. For example, it's like kind of a tool, right? We need not get threatened by an AI. It's just an artificial intelligence that is created by another human, but it's created by human ourselves. So there is no way that you can say that you can replace a human instructional designer with AI. But yes, you can use them. Like if an instructional designer creates 2 courses in 2 months, with AI, maybe they can create more courses, which is more beneficial for them, for you as an instructional designer. So I see it in that way. I don't find it as a threat in no way, because once you develop the curiosity, AI does not have that. Once you develop the human communicating expertise, AI cannot have that. Okay, we can upskill. AI is just a learning method. It just keeps learning from what we upskill. So just don't feel that, Prasanna. I think heads down, I would say you are in a safe place, even if AI comes, or if more than AI, anything comes, even if aliens comes. We are not at threat.
I would like to add, I mean, your response reminded me of one very small comparison because somebody asked a question about articulate, right? So forget about humans, and I'm talking for all the fields, including technical writing. When we feel threatened, think about the position of those companies which are preparing tools for us. Adobe, instructional designing, Articulate, Data, Oxygen XML. AI is here, I mean, from many years, but at least for the last 1 year, it's in top. Now in instructional designing, also Prince is talking about videos and all. Every day on Instagram, you will see so many tools, in 5 minutes, you create videos and all. But has Articulate reported that their sales are down? Sales is down. It's increasing. Adobe, you see, sales is increasing. Why? So yeah, I just to add to what Prince said, I think yes, in one way it's a challenge if we don't upskill ourselves. If you don't want to upskill, then of course it's a challenge. Because if a company feels AI can provide what you are providing, then of course they don't need you. Okay, sorry for that interruption. Next question, anyone? Looks like none.
Princy?
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
there was one question from Deepthi few minutes back. Like, as technical test, we primarily work on user guides or command reference guides. Okay, sorry, this is not career related. Sorry. Um, uh, sorry that.
Hi, Princy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry.
My name is Shweta. Basically, I'm working as an academic content writer for mathematics. How it is easy for me if I want to switch to instructional design?
You are already there. I would say you are an instructional designer. So you just need to understand the various different processes to become one. Okay. So what are the kind of deliverables that you would like to provide for your learners for the subject is something that you need to first identify. And how can you bridge that with technology? As I told you, as an instructional designer, certain skills, one of the skill is becoming a technology buff. So you need to get into the I would say the crux of it, the core of it, where you understand what your learners need and you know the subject, no better like a mathematic teacher. I am like, I'll run away from maths for that matter. Had I had a good instructional designer back then. So you are already delivering what an instructional designer would do, but maybe in a very manual way. But then here, you're just going to come up with a set of processes. You're going to know how do we want to deliver. Maybe as an instructional designer, I would say working in a corporate, it would be more of developing course content and developing more interactive evaluation methodologies or assessments and all of that. You can try to come with same creative ideas for your subject. Maybe your delivery pattern can change. As I told you, deliverables need not only be online courses or learning courses or anything that is going with the computer. I told you it could be as simple as presentation slides. It could be as simple as having a PDF with you. But how do you create your content matters as an instructional designer. So when we need to first deduct the basic skills with all the expertise that we have on the subject, and we can build the content. It should not be the regular one. We need to come up with ideas and thought processes for us a difficult subject as math. I hope I'm trying to bring a better understanding to what you asked, Shweta. But if you really want to connect with me more on this, feel free to do that.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think there is one. Yeah, that is asked by Mervyn John. How industry relevant would you rate the ID course from Symbiosis? I felt that it was more relevant for the education industry.
It's true. I understand his question. So there are like various different instructional content that Symbiosis, which is a university online for distance education, provides. It is not up to the mark because I would say it see, everybody's strategies would be different, right? So it again depends upon the volume that they are catering to. For them, they have a really wide level of audience, and that doesn't matter if they are actually getting into giving them a personal experience. But as instructional designers, if you are coming up with your own courses, your own strategies, I think it is critical for us to come up with a little Hatkeka plan so that you know that this is going to build up steam when you are launching it. You market it right. Because Symbiosis have already established themselves and they cater to vast um, audience variety. So we need not worry about that and compare. But yes, it could be a lot better. There are like a lot of better opportunities that they can provide in terms of the curriculum that they give. However, I would say I do not want to bring something down or kind of compare or all of that. I would say just we will keep it as is, but for when we are in a particular role or a position, we can try to make it better. That would be the best approach or the thought process that we can look into. Yes, there's some Papia. I do not know the full name.
Hi, Princy.
Someone else.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
Papia.
Oh, yes, Papia.
First of all, thank you so much. It was a very informative session.
Thank you.
And coming to, it's a very generic question, not career related, but I would like to know like what kind of technologies or trends are there in, and how do you keep up with it? What kind of resources do you read for creating the materials, the learning modules and all that?
That's a great question. So similar to what are you? What is your role, Papia?
I work as a technical marketing writer
Okay, so you are a technical
in
and marketing.
cybersecurity domain. Yes.
Perfect. So what do you do when there is a new thing that comes up as for you to write about, write a marketing collateral or maybe a technical documentation? What kind of a research that you do?
I do a little competitive research, read through different articles like on the similar domain, and then accordingly I prepare my content based on what kind of audience I'm catering to. So that's my basic search that I do at the beginning, and then I craft the content accordingly.
Perfect. So then, and after that, you come up with your own content, right? So there is
Right, yeah.
nothing that we are inventing something. In a similar way, as an instructional designer, suppose I am not aware of what Python is, and I've been given an opportunity to create a course on Python. So how do I go about it? First, I would try to understand what Python is, maybe not into the depth of being a developer or something. I would talk to my stakeholders to give me information. Definitely, you require a subject matter expert to give you all the required information to start building your content, same as a technical writer does. And then we conduct informed interviews on what kind of an outcome that we really want to provide to our learners. And then we move forward by building the content and all of it. So building the content, building the structure and all of it is our baby. But till then, the research part, we need to have a collaborative interviews happening, because we cannot do it in isolation. If it is for marketing, if it is for sales writing, that we can come up with a competitive analysis. But what if it's a unique product? You require an SME to come and give you that information, right? So that is exactly what an instructional designer also requires in terms of researching, analyzing, and then building the content and delivering it. So it's the process is just the same. So nothing changes. It's just that the way we deliver, the way we write differs. We will not use more professional language, more professional English. We'll use it like a conversational language and all of that. So that is the difference. But yes, the process remains the same.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a small request, requesting all the participants to turn on their video so that we can take a picture with Princy.
I feel like a star now. I mean, when Preeti said, take a picture with Princy, oh my God.
I wish picture with Princy, so Princy could have been at the center, but somehow Teams won't allow that.
Oh, that's a sad part.
Okay. Great. So, yep, somebody can take this screenshot.
Give me 1 second.
And when you are taking, just say 1, 2, 3, so that at 3,
Yeah.
everybody can smile and open the eyes.
Yeah, we are ready, I guess. Yeah. Everybody smile. 1 second. This screenshot to throwing some error. 1 second. Yeah. Okay, ready. 1. Yeah, 1, 2, and we go. Yeah.
Oh, finally.
Thank
Okay, thank you so much, Raviteja. And I would request you to put my face in the center, okay? You can, if you can Photoshop it.
I'll try some Photoshop.
Great. Thank you so much, Princy. It was, as usual, nothing new to say. Very interesting session, informative, and I'm sure people who joined us, for this, for additional information, we will have more questions about from them. So thank you so much for joining, and thank you, Team Hyderabad. Over to you.
Thank you, Princy. Thank you, all the participants. Thank you, Puneet. Thank you, Team Hyderabad, for having this wonderful session. And nothing would have been great to start a day off with instructional design. And I'm sure everybody is going